right, Chavra, good evening. Let's begin. So we're picking up tonight the Mirza Hashem on page 27. So if you remember again, 2 weeks. We didn't have shir last week. We didn't have shir last week, but 2 weeks ago when we were learning the Piazetzna, so we began Os Yud Aleph. And Kidarko Bakodesh, the Piazetzna is trying. We'll remember again, at the end of the day, right, if you were to frame what's the entire mission of the Piazetzna, what's his mission? In this Sefer, what's his mission? To transform us from what? From Avadim into Banim. Good. From servants into sons. That's from servants into sons. That's the entire Avoda. So remember again, the Piazetzna and Os Yud Aleph highlighted the idea. I can't sit next to two therapists. It's very scary for me. You're going to be analyzing. I'm going to be analyzing. Going to be analyzing. Come, Bear. Going to be analyzing everything. All right, it's good.
Help that I'm especially.
Thank you. I could probably use that more actually.
I thought this was a Chaburah tonight.
Is it intervention? Intervention. It's been years coming, by the way. Okay, good. So remember again in Os Yud Aleph. They're extra swarm over there. Also, I didn't make copies tonight, but this one. So we'll see. If you remember again, so in Os Yud Aleph, the Piazetzna was speaking to us about feelings, and speaking of really and emotions, and speaking about the idea that often feelings and emotions are how the neshama communicates with us. And the challenge in life is that sometimes we don't allow ourselves to feel. Right? We have an experience, an emotional experience, and then what happens? I hear it, but I choose not to listen to it, right? And I don't allow myself. What the Piazetzna essentially says is, I don't allow myself to feel my feelings. So they come, they go. Remember again the example the Piazetzna gave. Right? Good. Right. Okay, good. Baruch Hashem, good. So the example, good. Baruch Hashem. The example that the Piazetzna gave was that sometimes, again, if you could imagine that emotions are this deep river, and sometimes all we do is we just wade into the shallow waters, because we're, again, as we saw in Os Yud Aleph, we're afraid to let ourselves feel. We're afraid to let ourselves feel, because if we let ourselves feel, we might discover all kinds of things about ourselves, and we might discover more Kedusha that we have. And if I discover more Kedusha, that becomes a mechayiv, that obligates me to do things differently in life. So therefore, often, says the Piazetzna, what do? We just wall off our feelings. I just wall it off. I pretend like I don't feel. And in the moment that I'm beginning to feel something, I stop it. I don't want it to get too intense. And people do this in all different ways, right? Some people do it with humor, right? Everything's a joke, right? Some people do it with cynicism and sarcasm. Just, again, and I will say, but when you see someone who always has to crack a joke and always has to become cynical and sarcasm, that's actually a person who is sitting on a wellspring of emotion. They're just like a scared little child, unwilling to wade into it. Because if I allow myself to feel it, then there's no telling what could happen. So instead, we wall it off. And we all wall it off. Not we all. Many of us wall it off in different ways. So we're continuing on that theme. The Piazetzna continues on the last paragraph on page 27. I will say tonight is really an incredibly exceptional piece. So the Piazetzna writes, Lizos. So first of all, before we go on, therefore the Piazetzna says, so what's the goal of the Jew? The goal of the Jew is that when you feel something, what do you have to do? What do you have to allow yourself to experience it? Right? Don't shut it down. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to experience it. So the Piazetzna says, Lizos, Masheres umachrezes chaverasinu l'chol echa mechavrenu. So we'll say this is what we're calling out to every member of the Chavra. Heveodea lehistakel. Know how to look inside of yourself. Ubechol davar shemisrachesh bekerbecha mechutz lecha. And whenever something happens inside of you or outside of you, because we'll say what we're going to really see, what the Piazetzna is going to be describing over here. Oh, first of all, I forgot to thank Steve, who are our sponsors for tonight. Is it on the chat?
Steve,
Steve,
in memory of his, in honor of his mother's yard site, which is Yud.
I just wanted to make sure that it would be sometime. I don't know. You're leaving.
Yeah, not till we have share next to Goza, Meretz Hashem. B'shach, the neshama should have an aliyah, Meretz Hashem, the family in a chama. Shkoach, and of course a very special thank you to Jonas and Kaplan, who prepared the beautiful spread for tonight. And Chavi, you should just know a very special thank you to Steve Golaskov. Steve makes sure I have the easy part of this job. I just have to show up and teach Torah. Steve has the hard part of this job, which is coordinating that there's food, that there's mashka, that it doesn't run out, that people are happy, that it has to be the right level of unhealthiness, in every single share. It's very important. It's very important. So Mamish, like, already comes Tuesday, Steve is already thinking about this share. So Chaver, just know, things really never happen on their own. There's a Steve who's driving everything from behind the scenes. So Shkoyach.
There's one more sponsor, Chet Kaplan, in memory of Yechil Gershon ben Amar Yitzchak, his grandfather, Beis Shvat, and Tzvi David ben Sion, got that right? His great uncle on Zion Shvat.
Shkoyach, Shem Shavan Aliyah. Shkoyach Shavan
And how
Aliyah.
he sponsored the food.
Tzvi, Shkoyach, everyone. Incredible. How we left the building. So the Piagetna says this, right, that's true. So the Piagetna says as follows. He says, Ve'en histaklus re'iyah al davar nimtzal bilvad. So we'll say the Piagetna says, we have to become people who have an awareness. People who have an awareness. Who know how to look at things. What do you have to look at? So of course, it goes without saying that you have to look at what's happening outside of you. But just as important as looking at what's going on outside of you is what? What's going on inside of you. What's happening inside of me? Do I have an awareness of the feelings of that I'm experiencing? Am I a self-aware enough person to know what is going on? He says, and it's not just enough even to look. In other words, a person could say, sure, I'm self-aware, I'm feeling happy right now. Okay, that's not the self-awareness that Piagetna is describing. What is he describing? If you're feeling happy, what does the Piagetna say? What do I need to do? What's the next step? So first, excellent daven, beautiful. I have to ride the wave of that emotion. But now what he's also discussing over here is, so why do you feel happy? In other words, remember, as you saw in the last year, the Piagetna said that feelings, that emotions, they stem from the neshama. Feelings and emotions are the way that the neshama communicates with me about what's going on, right? The neshama doesn't talk. The neshama communicates through feelings. So when I feel happy, that's my neshama communicating with me. I feel unsettled. I feel sad. I feel depressed. That's the neshama communicating with me as well. But the only way you know what the neshama is saying is if you take the time to try to intuit, to try to understand what is the message. Rak min leida shemolidim otziem davar she'elan estakabo. Tzuras hadavar, anu otziem olidim, so skip actually a little bit. He says, v'lo hargashos ketanos biva, last two lines. Ovros bo, v'ne'evdos mito chose yicholes haskalos. Rak gam, turn the page, mitzvos shlemos, ovaras lo kulu'uma shebo. So I'll say, this is incredible. The Piagetna says, they will say people have different emotional states, right? Like if you can imagine, what's the name of the heart monitor? EKG, right? EKG, right? So we'll say, so the same way like there's an EKG, right? It measures the heartbeats. So there's also like an emotional EKG. In other words, so there are times in life where my emotional, what's the word? My emotional,
Baseline.
yeah, or my emotions are remaining at like a pretty baseline. Oh, there's a little up, there's a little down. So sometimes in those type of situations, it's easy to kind of not look into why the way I'm feeling a certain way because there's no major departure. In other words, it's kind of baseline. On the other hand, the Piagetna says sometimes, right, there are massive peaks and massive valleys in the way that I'm feeling emotionally. And the Piagetna says we never take the time to think about that. And we never take the time to analyze that. And the Piagetna says, understand what that is. You know what that's like? That's like getting a piece of mail and not opening it. Right? Imagine a piece of mail that was marked very important. Right? You get in the mail, and imagine just leaving it on your counter for weeks on ends. I'm assuming it's not a bill, right? Right? So imagine you just leave it. No one would do that. It says important. Of course, I have to open it to see what's going on. Piagetna says that sometimes the neshama delivers these major, important, emotional messages, but I don't check the mail. I don't open the envelope. I just don't stop to think and to understand why is it that I'm feeling this way. He goes on. He says, Hirgish ma bikirba v'efshalo l'israkes u'letzayu ladas ma hirgish u'b'mash shona hargashosu b'leil Yom Kippurim miRosh Hashanah u'milal Pesach u'kidome. Rabbi said, do we think about the fact that, let's say, all of us, we feel one way on the night of Yom Kippur, a different way on the night of Rosh Hashanah, and still a different way on the night of the Seder. Why is that? Why is that? Like, what's the pshat with those differences in feelings? What is it? And of course, the answer is, there's not an answer, but the answer is because my neshama is telegraphing something different in each of those major moments. But if I never take the time to just think about what the message is, it comes and it goes. Lachein, anu masirim. That says, therefore, we are warning, so to speak. Lamed es atzmecha lehistakel. I will say this is such a great line. Lamed es atzmecha lehistakel. Teach yourself to look. Teach yourself to look, or better stated, also teach yourself to investigate. When you feel a certain way, see, I will say, all kidding aside, right? People think that this is just like the purview of therapists, right? That therapists are there to help you understand why you feel this way. That is true. But with all deference, you also could sometimes do that on your own. In other words, we see, it's interesting, in the world of feelings, it's almost like for some reason, like the Piaget said, because we wall it off, we think that we can't figure out emotional things on our own. So therefore, by definition, like, we outsource the interpretation of emotion to professionals, which of course sometimes you have to do, and often, again, sometimes people outside of me are able to see things about me that I can't see about myself. That's 100% true. But there's a lot of circumstances in life where I just lamad es atzmecha lehistakel. Are you looking? You felt happy today? So why? Like, why do you think that is? What is it? And again, I will say, wouldn't it be just such a fascinating exercise that when you feel a certain way, to kind of analyze, where is that coming from? What is that source of happiness coming from? What is that source of sadness? Where is it emanating from? And to be able to understand what it is in life that drives me to feel a certain way, and on a deeper level, to be able to hear what the neshama is dispatching to me. And about something amazing happens, which is, when I look, this is incredible, when I look for the roots of my emotional experience, you know what I'm really looking for? I'm looking for Hashem. And I both say, just follow this progression. According to the Piaget, where does emotion come from? The neshama. Right? Emotion is the language of the neshama. The neshama dispatches emotions, sends it to the body. Now, as we spoke about the last year, sometimes the body totally corrupts the message of the emotion, but that's where it comes from. Now, we'll say, what's the neshama? What's the neshama? Like the Balatanya says, Chelek Eloka Mima'al Mamish. It's a spark, it's a piece of the Ribono Shel Olam. So when I investigate emotion, I'm really trying to find my neshama. And when I'm trying to find my neshama, what I'm really trying to do is find the Ribono Shel Olam. That's what's happening. So the Piaget says, the pursuit of understanding why I feel the way that I feel is in reality a search for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Eifo timsehu. So you'll say, where will you find God? Bicha. Where do you find the Kadosh Baruch Hu? It's very simple. People spend their lives looking for God. You don't have to look very far. God's in you. You want to find the Kadosh Baruch Hu? Just look inside. Just look inward. Just introspect. Ubechos yosecha. Hashem is in me, and Hashem is all around me. Aval tachlis zu sarich ata lehisrachek mina mehiros harchek. So both said, this is incredible. In order, people say, this is so. And sometimes you hear these words of the Piaget, and you wonder like what the Piaget would say in 2023. The Piaget said, so what do you have to do? What do you have to do in order to be able to connect with the emotion, connect with your neshama, connect with the Kadosh Baruch Hu? What do you need to do? Slow down. Look at Lashon. Say, Aval tachlezu. If you really want to understand the source of emotion, you want to understand the message of the neshama, you want to find that Kadosh Baruch Hu, sarich ata lehisrachik min hamehiros herchik. You have to distance yourself from the fast nature, or the fast pace of life. You gotta slow it down. You have to slow it down. I will say, you read something like this, and the Piaget was writing this again in the 20s. Right? Can you imagine, like today, there's Rabbi Dr. Abraham Tversky's Yechid Livracha quotes that he had a whole piece about multitasking, and he quoted Rav Mendel of Rimanov. The Mendel of Rimanov lamented the day that they paved the roads. Right? Why? So the Rebbe said, Rav Mendel of Rimanov said, because before they paved the road, what would happen? You would travel by day, then the sun would go down. What would occur? You'd have to check into an inn. And what would you do at the inn? You'd eat dinner. And what else would you do? You would talk with people. Because there are people, other people in the inn. And he said you'd fabreng a little bit, make a l'chaim, share some Torah. You'd daven Ma'ariv. And then what would you do? You went to sleep. So the Rebbe said, now that they paved the road, people are going to travel by day and by night, and no one's going to have time for anything. So Rabbi Tursky writes, can you imagine if from Mendel of Rimanov we're here today? I will say, I thought about this, to me, this became like most acute, which sounds serious. Right? So I'll say, when it comes to most acute, is I see like the iWatch. Like the iWatch. I say the iWatch is so symptomatic. It's great, by the way. Don't get me wrong, right? But it's so symptomatic. It's so symptomatic of what becomes like so challenging in society. Okay, so have a phone. All right, we all have a phone, and we know it's an isayon to stay off your phone. Like it is, which is ridiculous, which is absolutely ridiculous. But for many of us, I can't go 2 minutes, 3 minutes without just checking, right? As if somebody's sending me the nuclear launch codes, By the way, which might be in your email box, considering all of the classified documents that are everywhere. Check your spam. It may actually be there. So what's the So now what happens? Now I would say it's not enough that it's on your phone. It's not enough because if your phone is not within arm's reach, right? Boom, it's right here. It's right here. I don't know. I know if it's that your phone's not in arm reach. It's easier to go like this, and it's like this. So, and again, of course, I'm not Amish. Does technology have its? Of course. But I will say, but it is interesting to see that the pace of our lives is getting faster and faster and faster. And it's just important to point out that as the pace increases, our detachment from the self becomes more amplified, right? The more I'm moving, the more I'm doing, the faster the pace, I may be actually accomplishing more things. It's actually quite possible. I may be. But at the end of the day, I know myself less and less. And we know this. We know this to be true. We know this absolutely to be true. And the Piaget writes, you want to go ahead and understand your neshama. You want to understand the language of emotion. You want to find Hashem. Pump the brakes. You're going to have to slow it down. Because the process of introspection and the process of understanding the language of emotion requires time. Requires thought. Again, not hours on end sitting in a quiet forest. But it does require, think about it just a moment. When was the last time you had an emotional high? Either sadness or happiness. And you took a step back and you said, okay, let me analyze, why am I feeling this way? I don't know. Unless you have to because you're facing a concrete problem, or you're with a professional who's helping you work through this. We don't do this because of the pace of life. Just because of the pace. But yet, the Rebbe says something amazing. Look what he writes. Ki ein hamahir mitbonei. Oh, right? Ki ein hamahir mitbonei. Right? Ultimately, someone who is always rushing, someone who's in perpetual motion, is not contemplative. Well, say, isn't that incredible? Is not contemplative. I'll say, even if you think about it, it used to be, well, whatever, okay, I'll give enough mashalim. Right? So I'll say, but even in the car, I'm not such an old person. And I will say, but I will tell you, okay, most of you are young here, but I remember, even when you first got your driver's license, before CDs, certainly again, no podcast, nothing like that. There was even a concept that in the car, and certainly no Bluetooth, nothing, right? What did you used to do in the car? Tape deck. Right? Tape deck, 8-track. Also something else.
Push radio.
It was quiet.
Now.
It was quiet. Yeah, never. I don't know. I had quiet time. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Let me reframe it. If you weren't listening to the radio, right? You were listening to the radio, right? Even not all cars came with tape decks or cassettes or everything like that. So Lamais again, there was. I remember as a kid. Not that I'm not like I wasn't a contemplative teenager, but again, but there's definitely times where it was just quiet. I will say, think about when was the last time you were in your car and it was quiet. It was quiet. It was quiet. Now forget about it. Now, Baruch Hashem, you could actually answer all of your WhatsApps, your text messages, your emails while you're driving. While you're driving. No, I don't even mean like this. I mean just verbally. Even Daf Yomi you could do. Right? Which again, listen, I want to be clear. Is it beautiful and is it wonderful? Of course. It's fantastic. I'm just pointing out that this is our challenge, right? The Piagetna says, see, let's say, one of the major reasons, I just want to point out, we've been doing this Sefer now for a couple of months, right? And I think we'd all agree that it's absolutely transformative in every single way. But yet, I would also say that a lot of times we come out of a shir and we're like, I feel that my neshama knows what the Piagetna is saying, but I don't really understand what the Piagetna is saying, right? My heart, my neshama understands it, my mind doesn't. And I will say, there's a very good reason for that. Because everything the Piagetna is writing is predicated on being a thoughtful and contemplative person. And I will say, if we're honest, most of us are not thoughtful and contemplative people. I mean, we're thoughtful. In other words, I don't mean like thoughtful, like I'm kind, like I'm not going to hurt someone's feelings, but I mean like thoughtful in terms of that I'm the kind of person that retreats into myself for some amount of time each day, hisbonenus, isbodidus, to really think about what I'm doing, who I'm doing, and again, and maybe you'll say, well, you do it now. Chances are, if you say you do it now, you're probably retired, right? Right? But lamaisa, right? But lamaisa, which is great, which is fantastic, right? But it's not a challenge when you're retired. I mean, it is a challenge because you can occupy yourself. But I can't wait to do things till I'm retired. I also have to do it now in life. So part of why we also have difficulty wrapping our head around this stuff is because it requires us to be contemplative people. To be contemplative people requires us to slow down. Slowing down, no, just the opposite, right? I'm ramping up. Right? I'm taking on more. I'm doing more. I'm accomplishing more, which in certain respects is beautiful. But there's this hole. There's this hole in my life that I can only fill, says the Piagetna, if I slow it down and contemplate. He gives an example of this. So let's listen to this. He says, but those lines, I'll say, those lines are incredible. He says, Ki ein hamahir misbonein. If you live life constantly in the fast lane, there is no time for introspection. And if there's no time for introspection, you don't know your neshama. And if you don't know your neshama, you don't know the language of emotion. And if you don't know the language of, I should say, if you don't slow down, you don't know the language of emotion. If you don't know the language of emotion, you don't know your neshama. And if you don't know your neshama, guess what else you don't know? You don't know the Ribbon Shalom. Yes?
One thing I don't recall, maybe you addressed this. Is every emotion real? For example, not every emotion is good.
Correct. But every emotion comes from something.
But how do you know, or how does he told us which emotions you're doing? For example, say take sadness. So a person feels an emotion of sadness. But if he internalizes that sadness, then maybe he won't be able to continue going on with his life.
100%.
Or anger.
We're going to see all of this. But the most basic answer is, the first step is, stop to think why you're feeling this way. That's, in other words, identify the root. Identify the root. No, Nechemia, how many times does it happen in life? I have this all the time. I'm upset about something. If I catch myself and spend 30 seconds of introspection and then say, okay, why am I upset? Why am I upset? What happens 9 times out of 10? 9 times out of 10, I realize, you know what? This is foolish. This is just foolish. This doesn't make any sense. I'm about to literally, again, derail the rest of my day, probably get angry at a whole bunch of other people, be brightest, it's going to come out in all negative ways, and that's all that's the starting point. Just like, okay, you're feeling it. Before we get into, is it real, is it not real, is it good, is it not good, stop. Where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? So sometimes it's narishkeit, it's bad, it's not a good emotion, it's false, it's hevel, it's sheker, but sometimes it's the neshama talking to me. But I'll never know how to be mavchin those things if I don't stop and introspect. Look at the mashal he gives. Now, by the way, he does give another mashal. He said, she said before the mashal, Aval gam yishar benafshecha shelo tagia b'misunosecha ad kitzei gvula v'lo siga ba'atzlos va'atzlos. So let's listen to this. So here the Piaget says, you need to slow down, but don't slow down too much. Don't slow down too much. So I'll say, isn't this an incredible idea, right? Slow down, but not too much. Why? What happens if you slow down too much? I'll say, what happens? Number one, he says, you become lazy. You become lazy. Number two, he says, you fall into the clutches of atzvos, of sadness. Isn't that profound? Because if you slow down too much, then I stop accomplishing as much as I can. I will say, more often than not, in the Piaget's view, we're going to see, where does sadness come from? Right? If we look at emotion as the language of the soul, so where does sadness come from? If I'm honest, sadness comes from underachievement. Sadness comes from underachievement. And I will say, it's true, by the way, right? Think about it. One of the moments when you're happiest in life, we spoke about this last year, it's not when you're on vacation, right? Vacation is very nice. But most of us, usually again, whether it takes you a couple of hours or a couple of days, everyone has that moment where how do they feel on vacation? Right? I'm ready to go home. Right? I'm ready to go home. Right? Like I said, some people it's a couple of hours. Some people they don't even get to where the destination and they're already ready to turn around. Other people, whatever. But that's not. I'm happiest when I have a productive day. When I feel like I'm performing. When I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders. Like I am working. That's when I feel happy. Conversely, says the Piaget, if I slow down too much, and as a result of slowing down, I underperform, that creates atzvos. That creates a sense of sadness. I will say, he gives a tremendous mashal over here. So now let's illustrate this concept, right? So now we understand the framework that the Piaget is framing for us. Let's plug it in now to a real life example of where there's a dramatic emotional experience that's happening, but I may or may not be aware of it. So I will say, look at this. Middle of page 28. Lamashal, paragraph that starts Lamashal. Lamashal, get ready for this. Ata Yoshev Besuda Shlishis B'Shabbos B'Chavras Chasidim. You're sitting at Shalashudis with a group of Chasidim. Because there's no other way to have Shalashudis than with a group of Chasidim, right? Right? You're having, all of us we're all Chasidim. We've learned the Piaget, we're Chasidim the Piaget. What's the Shaila? Jose, so again, I'm sitting on Shabbos with a group of Chasidim. B'Shalashudis. Now look what he writes. Hayim Eina Tamargish Mu'uma As, tell me, is it possible to go through a Shalashudis and not feel something? Right? Is it possible not to feel something? HaTzadikim Amru. So the Rebbe writes over here, the Tzadikim said, Sheshas Shalashudis, Hiyasha Yafa, Sha Achas B'tshuva Ma'aseh Tova Ba'olam Hazeh, Mikol Chayei Olam. What's that? The Gemara says that Yafa Sha Achas B'tshuva Ma'aseh Tovim. 1 hour, one moment in this world of tshuva and good deeds is better than an eternity in Olam Haba, in the world to come. I will say, during the week, what's the one moment, the Shah Achas of Tshuva and Maisim Tovim? The Piaget says, Shalashudis. Shalashudis is the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it's the holy of the holies of the week. He says, he quotes over here again, it's follows, Sheshamati Shamagi Mikoshnitz, Zatzal Omer. So let's listen to this. The Koshnitz Shamagi said, B'shalosh Su'udos, Shebe Bechinas Tzadikim Yoshvim, Va'ataraseim Berashehem, V'nenim Miziv Ashchina. They both say, what happens during, this is so beautiful, what happens during Shalashudis? I'm doing Shalashudis. It's as if the tzaddikim are sitting, their crowns are on their head, and they are benefiting from the divine presence. They both say, where is that phrase from? That's from the Rambam, Hilchos Tshuva, that speaks about Olam Haba. That's how the Rambam describes Olam Haba. Tzadikim Yoshvim, the tzaddikim are sitting around the Shechina, V'ataraseim Berasheim, their crowns of their good deeds are on their head, V'nenim Miziv Ashchina, they derive benefit from the Shechina. So the Koshnitzer Magid takes the wording of the Rambam and he says, you want to know where you could experience this in this world? Shalashudis. Shalashudis is the moment of incredible closeness and intimacy with Hashem. V'ata, ha'eincha margish mu'uma. Look at the Piaget. Piaget says, Dagi, tell me. Do you feel anything during Shalashudis? Do you feel it? Do you feel this description? There's a moment, Shalashudis is a moment that is holier and better than eternal life in the world to come. And the Piaget says, somehow what? Somehow, I don't even feel it. Somehow, I don't feel it. Somehow, it just goes by, and I don't even experience it. Betach. Atzlosecha mifata oscha. So I'll say, so now what happens? So now I know what Shalashudis is. I know that Shalosh Chudis is Olam Haba. I know that Shalosh Chudis is, right, literally again, Yafa, it's a Shah Achas B'tshuva Ma'asim Tovim. So now, but I don't really feel it. So what happens? So it's okay, because the Yetzer Hara comes along and says, don't worry about it. Of course you don't feel it. Who are you? You think you're the Kajnitzer Magid, right? You think you're a tzaddik? You think you're a Rebbe? You think you're someone special? You're just a regular guy. So the most you're going to feel during Shalosh Chudis is indigestion, right? That's right. That's the most, right? That's the most you can have Shalosh Chudis, right? You're not going to feel anything. You're not going to feel anything. You're not going to get anything because after all, you're not a tzaddik. You're not the Kajnitzer Magid. Aval kvar marti lecha she'tshuva kazos tshuva yitzar shebachai. So the Piaget says, but that's just the Yetzer Hara trying to derail me. You're right, I'm not the Kajnitzer Magid. I'm not the Kajnitzer Magid. But I'm a Heilig Getayra Yid. I'm a special Jew. I'm a special holy Jew. So I might not be the Kajnitzer Magid, but I'm absolutely capable of feeling these things during Shalosh Chudis. Hashem Yisparach Malchusa V'Kal Mashala V'Emet Tzadikim Zechusi Yaginan Hergishu V'Is'ango Miktushasi Yisparach V'Bechinas Reisha Ato Al Koponim At Bechinas Akavayim or Akavayim Dakavayim the Kedusha Targish. Shabbos say, you're right. Maybe the Kajnitzer Magid felt the Kedusha of Shalosh Chudis in his entire body. So I'm not the Kajnitzer Magid. But if I can't feel it in my entire body, at least I can feel it where? In my heel. I can feel it in my pinky toe. I can feel it a little bit. I can feel it, in other words, I'm capable of feeling something. Gam ata margish, aval betach, gam ata margish b'cha es ha-shalosh seudos. But one thing is clear, the Piaget says, you can feel Shalosh Chudis. You can feel it. You can feel it if you want to feel it. Gam libcha umocha misnanim mizdazim mikol rama galgal galgole hamerkava she'orim derech nafshcha. Rabbi say this is incredible. Listen to these words. He says, you know what happens in Shalosh Chudis? The chariot of the Ribono Shel Olam is literally riding through my neshama. So the Piaget says, who cannot shake, not shake out of fear, shake out of awe and out of love and out of appreciation that the chariot of the Ribono Shel Olam is literally riding through my soul. Who doesn't hear the wheels of that chariot turning? Rak she'ena yachol lisboni listakel. They'll say, what's the problem? The problem is not with the experience. The problem is with my unwillingness to connect with the experience. In other words, you hear what the Piaget is describing over here, and this is such a simple example. This is just Shalosh Chudis. Let's say we have Shalosh Chudis every single week. Every single week. Let's say, so the Piaget says, you have the event every week, but do you allow yourself to feel the experience each and every week? Do you know what's going on? And do you allow yourself to tap into it? Va'aram va'arash ovdim v'nefsadim b'cho ad shekemat lo teda she'Hashem elokecha ba b'chol kiddush avimo. And we'll say, and yet a whole Shalosh Chudis could go by, and what happens? I'm not even cognizant of all of the incredible and overwhelming things that are happening right inside of my neshama. Kol ish tzarich leistakel kifi matzavo. So now, what the I want to point out, this is not a shir on Shalosh Chudis. The Piaget is just using Shalosh Chudis as an example of how sometimes we just fail to connect with the deeper emotional dimension of the things that are happening around us. What is Shalosh Chudis, says the Piaget? It's Sadikim Yoshvim Va'atarosem Barashehem V'nenem Miziv Ashchina. It's the chariot of the Ribono Shel Olam riding right through my neshama. So the Piaget says, okay, maybe you're not feeling all of that. Okay, could be maybe you're not feeling all of that. The Piaget says, however, there's still a basic level. Every person has to connect with the emotional dynamic of Shalosh Chudis in accordance with his own level. For example, what's the level of simple connection with Shalosh Chudis? Simple connection. Avra lecha Shabbos. Most of the time Shalosh Chudis comes, Shabbos is almost over. Yom kulo shel Kiddusha. What's happened over Shabbos? An entire day of Kiddusha. Min hashamayim kitchu oscha. So we'll say again, from the heavens, a layer of sanctity has been conferred upon me. V'gam ata kidashtes atzmucha b'yom zeh. And I've sanctified myself over Shabbos. We'll say page 29. Have I sanctified myself on Shabbos? Have I done that? Listen to this. Lo asakta b'mischarecha. First of all, you didn't go to work. You didn't go to the office. Lo tayalta b'shugim rechovos. You didn't go to the store. Right? You didn't go to the mall. Right? Lo ikaltas roshecha. You did not engage in frivolous behavior. Hopefully. Right? So lo ikaltas roshecha. Yashavtis bodidus beinecha bein konecha. She'll say, it's pretty clear. The Piagetna Shabbos was maybe a little bit different than ours. Right? She'll say, so again, the Piagetna says, you carved out time for introspection. You carved out time to be alone with yourself. Yachad im chaberecha asakta b'Torah ubesiach shel kedusha v'chasidus. And with your friends, you learn Torah, you learn Chassidus. Kibastes atzmicha mikol avak v'kesem sha'alo alecha b'chol hashavua. I cleansed myself from any dust and dirt which accumulated on me over the course of the week. V'eshtadlus lavo ad nafshecha shazafta v'rachakta mimena b'chol yimos hachol. We'll say, so again, the Piaget is just describing over here, just like de facto, what do I accomplish on Shabbos? We'll say, think about this, what have I accomplished over Shabbos? I haven't gone to work for a day, right? I've distanced myself from many of those mundane weekday activities. I haven't gone to the mall, to the marketplace, to the store, right? Hopefully I've carved out a little bit of time to introspect. I've learned Torah, hopefully a little bit, myself, my friends. I've distanced myself from all of the negative things I do during the week that bring me down. We'll say, what happens over Shabbos? Every moment that Shabbos goes by, I feel myself becoming holier and holier. And from one level of holiness to another level of holiness. Ad shekirafta al shalashudis morom kitzo shal Shabbos. Rava deravin. Sudahi migimel suudos. So again, so now, he's talking about even if you don't feel the chariots of God running through your soul, right? And even if you don't feel like you're a tzaddik sitting, right, benefiting, Shabbos by definition has a cathartic effect on us simply because we abstain from doing certain everyday mundane things, and I bolster myself with holiness by engaging in some level of introspection and growth. The Rebbe goes on, he says, Aval margish ata shekvar in makam v'amatzav ata lisboa bebasar v'dagim rak lechapes esakel mistater b'shafrir chivayon v'lisboa mizivyav. So I'll say this is beautiful. Until the point that I come to Shalosh Shudas, everything comes to an apex, to a zenith at Shalosh Shudas. Because what happens at Shalosh Shudas, I'm hungry. I'm hungry at Shalosh Shudas. But I'm not hungry, says the Piaget, for meat. I'm not hungry for fish. What am I hungry for? I'm hungry. Egg salad, right? Egg salad. Yeah. Thank you. Right. What am I hungry for? I'm hungry. You're lucky you were sitting there and said that. By the way, if you were sitting over here, would have been like a mamish, So what happens? Says the Piaget, no? I'm hungry for the Ribbon Shalom. I'm hungry for Hashem. I'm doing Shabbos. By the time I get to Shabbos, I'm almost a day into Shabbos. I'm a different person. By the way, I want to point out, this is true, even if at the end of the day, I didn't do some of the dynamic things that Piaget described. Just simply, I haven't gone to work. I spent a little bit more time davening. I was in shul. I was with my friends. And we'll say, again, you know the power of making l'chaim with another Jew, of celebrating Shabbos with another Jew, of spending time with your family. All of these things are meaningful things that lift me up higher and higher, to the point that I get to Shalosh Shudas, and I'm a different person. The kind of person who's not yearning for meat and for fish, but kind of person who's yearning for closeness with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we'll say, now listen to this. V'yoshev atem chaverecha gam ki v'akshei pnei Hashem. And I come to Shalosh Shudas. And again, I'm sitting at Shalosh Shudas with my friends, and all together, we're trying to find our Kadosh Baruch Hu. And we'll say, he writes, "Ubechoshech atem yoshen." So we'll say, by many of the Chassidim, so Shalosh Shudas is in the dark. Shalosh Shudas is done in the dark. Now, why is Shalosh Shudas done in the dark? He says, Minhagi Yisrael Torahim. It's a minhag Yisrael to do Shalosh Shudas in the dark. Ki mas'imim heim es pu'ulas hagof l'matzav ha'nefesh ba'osa ha'shah. Because we'll say, by closing the lights with dark, well, not closing the lights, by having Shalosh Shudas in darkness, what you do is you bring the body and the soul on the same level. Or I'll say, watch what the Piaget says. Ki is choshech v'is choshech. Eitz l'Hashem yisparach kasov, yashas choshech sisro. I will say, the closer you get to Hashem, it's going to sound strange when I first say it, but then it'll make sense. The closer you get to Hashem, I will say, the darker it is. Meaning what? I will say, if you look in the Chumash, so every single time the Ribono Shel Olam is described, what's always accompanying Hashem? An anan, a cloud. right? What does a cloud do? A cloud blocks visibility. It blocks visibility. It's almost as if the closer you come to Hashem, the less you see, which makes sense because the closer I come, the more I realize that what? I think that I know everything because I see everything, right? But the closer I come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I realize that I actually don't know most things in life. Even though I see it, I don't know it. Rabbi Nachman has this beautiful idea. The Rebbe says, why is it that when we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, we close our eyes? The Rebbe says sometimes because the only way to see clearly in life is to cover your eyes. So I say sometimes the eyes deceive, right? And I think that what I see is true. I think that what I see is correct. And meanwhile, Dar Tapuchos, often the world is upside down. My gauge is misaligned. So the Rebbe says you sit in Shalosh Shuddis, because what happens in Shalosh Shuddis? See, in the dark, the body can't do anything. So the body's not doing anything, the body can't act, and the neshama is also in the dark, because the closer it gets to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, the darker things become. Eitz Hashem is God. Ora mitiu, v'choshechu mina olam hazeh, lo olam v'lo divrei olam nirim kvar. V'chevon shezeh me'es le'es, shalim shatem mischazek, misrachik mina olam hazeh, u'miskariv ata psia achar psia, el bechinas rava derav, v'nutzon ha'elyon, mocha v'lipcha, af b'chushei gufecha. So we'll say, so I come to Shalosh Shuddis, and now what's happening at Shalosh Shuddis is like this equilibrium between body and soul. The body's in the dark, the soul is in the dark. I've spent almost 24 hours away from anything worldly or anything material, more, right? Anything malachadik. And now again, suddenly I'm in this closest place to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Muchrach gam gufcha pa mam shashavs b'choshech. Gam lipcha gam einecha lo yiru kvar olam v'divrei olam fem. And I was saying, when you sit in the dark, the body can't see the physical trappings of the world either. So the soul is in the dark because the soul has never been closer to Hashem. The body's in the dark because the body's removed from all of the physical things of Olam Hazeh. Everything is in the dark. Vashem mistater b'choshech. And who else is in the dark? Or what else is in the dark? The Ribono Shel Olam, right? Everything is in the dark. Everything in the dark. So the Rebbe goes on, he says, V'achar chipos ubedika shebechol hashab is bala arafel sheshem elokim bikashta umatzasa es shava nafshecha. So we'll say, so quite beautiful. And after an entire Shabbos, right? After an entire Shabbos of searching for Hashem, I come to Shalosh Shuddis, and what's happened? I've found him. I've finally found the Ribono Shel Olam, ultimately who I have been looking for. The entire room of Shalosh Shuddis, right? Everything is filled with the assembly of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And again, listen to what he's describing over here. So I'm sitting in Shalosh Shuddis in the dark, says the Rebbe, and the room is filled. Who is the room filled with? The room is filled with the entire assembly of the Ribono Shel Olam, the entire heavenly host. They call the entire room of Shalosh Shuddis is filled with literally the throngs of Malachim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And what's my job doing Shalosh Shuddis? To push my way through the throngs of Malachim in order to get to the Holy of Holies. All I want, Rabbi say, what's a successful Shalosh Shuddis? I just want to push my way through the throngs and ultimately get myself to the Holy of Holies. Achastiv of Allah Panu. So I'll say, writes the Piagetz, no? So I'll say, if I knew that I could sustain this experience forever, how happy would I be? Right? If I knew that I could stay in Shalosh Shuddis, that I could create the Shalosh Shuddis experience and remain within it my whole life, how happy I would be. Aval niskarta sheba'od rega yadliku neros tavdil. I will say, but I know in Shalosh Shuddis, what's going to happen another minute? What's going to happen? I will say, it's interesting. Sometimes it's, right, what's going to happen? The two saddest words of the entire Shabbos. What are the two saddest words of the entire Shabbos? V'hurachum, right? V'hurachum. That's it, right? Once that v'hurachum starts, we'll say, right, everything changes. It's in that moment, right? Everything fundamentally changes. We're going to make Havdalah. V'shuv tipol imosachol. And again, I'm going to come back to the weekdays. V'nafshecha marlach. And I'm sad. Eich tipol, page 30. Mina choshech shamayim erbeli toar v'lachoshech L'choshech Mitzrayim, chashchas hatzaros, tzaros haguf, v'anefesh gam yachas. So we'll have to stop over here for tonight. Sorry for tonight, and I'm leaving off. Well, actually, it's just one more line. He says, let me skip a little bit. Just, l'choshech Mitzrayim, chashchas hatzaros, tzaros haguf, v'anefesh gam yachad. Tirad v'targish. So we'll say, so I had this incredible moment of elation, spiritual elation, of literally again, Sadikim Yoshem v'ataraseim b'Rashem b'nenem b'ziv hashchina. That's Shalosh this. And now I realize again, Havdalah, v'hu rachum, and everything goes back to the way that it was. And there's a sadness. As shtehen ata margish. Ata kates hayamin, the kates hayamin marom, kito shalak dusha, the kates nemichu shalachol, hatre gavni shal chashucha ne'avakim ata b'cha, b'shalosh su'udos. So what says, listen to what, okay, this will really have to stop over here. Did Rebbe say, you know what's happening during Shalosh this? There are two darknesses that are like fighting inside of me. What are the two darknesses? There's the darkness of Shalosh this. What's the darkness? The darkness of Shalosh is the darkness of holiness, right? The darkness of the cloud, of the unknown, closest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then there's the darkness of the weekdays. And they're both fighting inside of me during Shalosh. So I will say, so we'll stop over here for tonight. But again, so we haven't finished. I just want to point out we haven't finished yet. But remember again, what is the Piagetzna highlighting for us, right? What are we trying to accomplish? We're just trying to accomplish, says the Piagetzna, is that in every single experience in life, there is dramatic emotion. I will say, by the way, let me just ask you, have you ever in your life heard Shalosh described this way? Have you ever heard anything like this in your life? Ravid, holy of holy. We hear. Shalosh is the holiest time of the year. It's like the Yichud room in the Chassid. We hear it. Have you ever heard someone describe the Kiddush of Shalosh, the beautiful holy darkness of Shalosh like this? And I will say, this happens every single week. Every single week. Egg salad or no egg salad. Right? It happens every single week. And I will say, so what's the chap or what's the challenge? The challenge, says the Piagetzna, is we often just don't plug into it. We just don't plug into it. We're just not allowing ourselves to feel the full scope of the emotional experience. And Shalosh, I will say, is just one example in life. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of other examples of dynamic, emotional events that could fundamentally transform us as individuals if we allowed ourselves to feel it. And when we allow ourselves to feel things, we connect with the neshama, we connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and ultimately then we're able to understand the messages that are being dispatched to us. But if we remain aloof and detached from emotion, then we lose out on an entire dimension of existence. We'll stop over for today. We're going to continue. We're going to finish off with Shalosh this in Merit Hashem next week. Ma'ariv. Shalosh will never be the